4:43 this Thursday. The news can be really hard to understand these days, and it can be even harder to explain to our kids. So here to guide us through those tough but really important conversations is child psychologist Dr. David Chiarella. We're so happy to have you on. Good morning, Dr. C.
Good morning, Krista.
It's ironic because obviously we present the news every single morning, but a lot of folks, they're the ones that are watching this every single day. So how do we even explain what's happening in the news following the death of George Floyd to our kids?
Well, right in the middle of a pandemic and all of the other stuff that goes on, and, we just continue to be barraged by images on TV that may be disturbing, and as recently, obviously, very disturbing to all of us, including our children. And so, one of the things that we always need to do is to have open, honest conversations with our children. I think this is an excellent opportunity for parents to, what I would say, call educate and explore. I mean, if you talk about protests, we could talk about First Amendment rights, which will lead us into discussion of the Constitution. If we look at racism and social injustice, then I think that helps us to educate all of us about the history of racism and social injustice in our country. And again, it becomes a teachable moment for parents. So that I would certainly recommend that we minimize the amount of contact, especially young children have with these disturbing images, but also not avoid them. So I think it needs to be discussed. Black families talk about having the talk with especially Black males. So I think we all need to have the talk, and the talk is probably more than just one talk, but it's about a progression of talks to talk about diversity, differences, compassion, so on and so forth. So I think it's an opportunity now for us to take stock, become more aware, more educated, and more sensitive.
Age is a big factor in this too when you're explaining these situations to kids, but we've seen some even really young children participating in protests recently. How do we talk to kids about racism, and does age play a factor in how we have that discussion, maybe how in-depth we go and how serious we get?
Certainly. There have been a number of studies that indicate that even preschool children are aware of differences, how people look different, act different, talk different. So in the early years, I think we just talk about differences and diversity. And as parents, we can celebrate that by talking about different cultures, different foods, different rituals that people have. And so that begins the process of helping children become more aware of people's differences and the diversity. As kids get older, particularly in adolescence, we can become much more specific, and we I think this would be an excellent opportunity, barring COVID and get everybody getting together, to have, if you had a 16-year-old, bring 3 or 4 of their friends over to watch a movie like Selma, to watch a movie like American Son, and then have a discussion about that. And so with adolescents, it's much easier to bring up the issue and talk about it.
Dr. Chiarella, is racism learned? If a child is in a home where there is racism present, will they soak that in? And the same with the opposite. If a child is raised in an environment where they don't have that, will that soak in? How important is that? Is that a big factor in this?
If you broke up on me. If there's racism in the home,
do kids learn that? Is that a really important thing for kids to learn this early on? And does that environment play a part in this?
I think definitely. I think that if the children are raised in a home that is racist and bigoted, and so they're going to pick up on those ideas. But the other thing that's the most important, Krista, to realize is that even in homes where parents advocate against racism and bigotry, children experience it in school, in the playground, on TV, social media. So that's another important reason why parents need to bring up this subject and talk about it. And again, during these kinds of episodes, these kinds of situations, it opens a window for parents to begin to have that discussion and these discussions. And again, as I've always said, when you have those discussions, validate their feelings, share your feelings, be honest and open. And I think at this time, it's also important to just kind of stay away from stuff for a while. You know, again, the pandemic and the protests, just take some time away from TV and social media and just be together as a family and do something completely different.
Good advice. Dr. C, thank you so much. You always have so many words of wisdom for us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. You have a good day.
You too. We'll see you in a few weeks. And hey, we will see you in just a few minutes. We have to take a break and then we'll be back.